You're 7 years old, and today, men you've never met come to take you from your mother's house forever. Not for a punishment, not because anything went wrong, because you were born into it. From this morning on, your body doesn't belong to your family anymore. It belongs to the state. This is the actual life of a Spartan citizen, and it runs on 3 separate tests. Fail any one of them, and you don't just lose a title, you get erased from the record. The first test starts today, and it's going to last 13 years. Welcome to the Agoge. You'll sleep on a bed of reeds you gather and break with your own bare hands. No knives allowed. That's the point. One cloak, all year, rain, or the middle of a Spartan winter, it doesn't matter. Here's where it gets interesting. You're deliberately underfed on purpose, and you're expected to steal food to make up the difference. But if you get caught stealing, you're not punished for stealing. You're punished for getting caught. The lesson isn't don't steal, it's don't get seen. So you learn to move quiet. You learn to lie clean. You learn pain doesn't excuse a mistake, only getting noticed does. By the time you're a teenager, you've been tested, ranked, and retested against every other boy your age, over and over, for years before you fought in a single real battle. And then, somewhere in your late teens, if you're picked, you disappear into the countryside for the second test, alone, just you and a knife. This is the Crypteia, a secret program where young Spartans were sent to survive completely off the land, watching Sparta's enslaved population, the Helots, from the shadows. Ancient sources claim it went further than watching, that some nights, a Helot who stood out, who looked too strong, too confident, too much like a future problem, simply never made it home. Modern historians still argue about how often this actually happened versus how much of it was Spartan legend built to keep an enslaved population too afraid to organize. But the fear itself, that part was real, and that was the entire point. So how did anyone even survive childhood, let alone come out the other side? Well, if you make it to 20, you face your second real test, the vote. Every existing citizen mess hall, called a syssitia, has to vote you in, unanimously. One no and you're out. And even if you get in, you're not done. Every single year, you have to keep supplying that mess hall with food from your own land that's worked by the same helots the Crypteia is busy terrorizing. Miss that contribution, even once, and you drop from Spartiate down to something called a hypomeon, an inferior. Same blood, same training, suddenly a completely different rank because your land had one bad harvest. Land, the third and final test right here, the battlefield itself. And this is where it stops being about food or hazing and starts being about your literal life. Here's the twist nobody expects. In Sparta, surviving a defeat could be treated as worse than dying in one. If you broke and ran while your formation held, you became a tresas, a trembler. And the punishment wasn't just shame. You could be legally barred from holding office. Nobody would let you arrange a marriage for your own daughter. You'd be marked in public, patched cloaks, half your beard shaved off, walking proof of the one day you chose staying alive over the line. There's a real name attached to exactly this, not a legend, a documented person. Aristodemus, one of the 300 sent to Thermopylae in 480 BCE. He didn't die with the rest of them. Ancient accounts differ on exactly why. An eye condition, being sent away before the final stand, but the result was the same either way. He came home alive and the 300 didn't. Sparta didn't call him lucky, they called him ho tressus. The trembler, he wasn't allowed to speak in public, men wouldn't share a fire with him. Surviving Thermopylae made him, in the eyes of his entire city, worse than dead. So what do you do with a life everyone's already written off? The next year, at the Battle of Plataea, Aristodemus didn't hold formation. He didn't wait his turn. He broke rank and threw himself at the enemy line alone, fighting until he died. Herodotus records that Sparta gave him no formal honors for it anyway. Even dying on purpose to erase the shame wasn't fully enough. So here's the actual shape of a Spartan life. 3 tests, the Agoge, the vote, the battlefield. And notice what they have in common. None of them are really about strength. They're about whether the state can trust you completely, with your body as a child, with your loyalty as an adult, with your life at the very end. Think about the last time you had a genuinely bad day at work, called in sick, missed a deadline, showed up late. It cost you an awkward conversation maybe. In Sparta, a single bad day on the wrong battlefield could cost you your name, your marriage, your entire place in the city for the rest of your life. That's probably the real reason Sparta's military reputation outlived Sparta itself by 2,000 years. Not because Spartans were unbeatable, because their entire system made surviving on the wrong terms feel like a fate worse than losing. If you want more of what history actually felt like from the inside, not just the highlight reel, the rest is on the channel.